I'm odd that way. Is this recording, by the way? It is, isn't it? Sharing too many personal stories already.
Well, that's great.
All right. Oh, and by the way, and okay, here we go. And action.
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Mark Weistra. It's odd to say it with an English or American accent. 44 years old, believe it or not. I used to have, specifically at the time when I worked in my own video store, had a lot of times where, or sometimes when somehow my age came up and people would say, oh, you don't look it, but that day has, I don't ever hear that again, so apparently I do look 44. What else to say? I'm a father of 3, I live in Amsterdam and married, have been working part-time as a teacher and part-time as a filmmaker. That's sort of how I balance my professional life. And I love movies. It's really hard to say which one of the professions, the jobs, the things that I do I like the most. Honest to God, like it sounds cliche, but being a dad I like the most, but you don't make any money by being a dad. See, filmmaking is really hard. And teaching it's not easy, but I like that, it's fun. Most of the time I get energy from talking to young people. I like sharing and talking about the thing that I have passion for. I like the interaction. So I couldn't live without both. I need to be busy working on films because that's where my creativity goes, but I also, ever since I started also teaching, I can't imagine ever not doing this. So I can't choose, actually. I'm actually quite happy at the moment. I think I found a balance in my life and I have a nice balance between, my passion and working on projects on the side and doing this. And I hope I can continue to do this and live this life this way for quite a long time. Film, my earliest memory of film was going to see a movie with my dad. It was a Bud Spencer, Terence Hill movie. Most young people have never heard of who they are. They were like a comedic action duo, Italian, but dubbed in English. And I remember being so small. I don't remember my age exactly, but I was so small that I had to sit on the cinema seat in the upright position on the edge of the seat, flipped up to be able to even see the screen. I remember always loving movies, but I also remember there was even a bigger explosion of that love, and it was also the moment where I think I sort of felt or knew whatever my future would be, it would probably be with movies, is when I was 12 years old. My parents already for a few years had a VCR, a video recorder, and I was put in charge as the person who would rent the title each weekend, and I rented a little movie called Back to the Future, and I was so transfixed by that movie. It was such an adventure. I was so out of the world and into the TV, into the movie, in the DeLorean, traveling 88 miles per hour, going back to 1955. I was gone, and I loved that so much that I thought, well, whatever my future will be, it has to be in something related to movies.
Yeah.
What I love about filmmaking is everything. Although everything is also difficult and exhausting and confrontational, and nothing makes me more insecure, even at my age, than filmmaking. Is it good? Is it any good? Does it work? Will this work? Do I like this? Will other people like this? But I also like that fight, that struggle. Not always, but most of the time I do. The thing I love most, ultimately, it's also the reason, or part of the reason why I like horror so much. Also, as someone who makes that is to see an emotional reaction that other people have of something that I made. And I remember being in film school and doing a wonderful exercise where every director had the same scene, the same actors to work with, and the same set. And I chose to make that scene into a horror scene. because it was open to interpretation. And I remember shooting it that way and editing, doing some sound effects, and I was with the teachers and the actors and the other directors in the screening of all the scenes, and my scene came up and there's a jump scare. I had a jump scare in it, and I was, oh, it's coming, and I was sitting all the way on top, and I had an overview of everyone, and everyone, even though they participated and helped and knew it was coming, went like, ha! Like that, and I love that. That was so cool. So there's a lot I love, but the thing that I love the most is to get to people. My inspiration, I do get most of my inspiration from other movies. I am very postmodern, as they say, because of that. Like Tarantino is the best known example. I tend to make movies, I tend to go, first of all, when I have a new project, I tend to look at I have like 1,000 DVDs still at home, and I tend to go through like, what type of movie would I love to make myself next? And I would go through and I would collect a few, and it's like, oh, I would love to do a movie like this, and then a movie like this, and then can I make a combination of those? And then put my own, because I also obviously believe movies should be very personal as well. So then I'm trying to figure out, on top of that, okay, but what could I add? How can this still be personal to me and give it color so it's not just a copy of something you've seen before? It's like someone asking, and it's an exaggerated, but no, it's not that exaggerated actually. If you were to ask me, who's your favorite child? It's like, how dare you ask me that? That's impossible for me to say. Don't make me say anything like that, because I can't, honestly. So I can't name a favorite movie, I can't name a favorite director. I get inspiration from tens, if not hundreds of movies, let alone directors and filmmakers. And yeah, it's an impossible question. Yeah. I love directors who do horror, who do drama, who do art house. I love old stuff, black and white stuff. I love new stuff, experimental stuff. It's any movie that's extra is good for me. No matter if it fails or I even didn't like it personally, it's another addition to cinema. I used to have like it's called in Dutch, a speelfilm encyclopedie. It doesn't exist anymore, in print. And it was like a big book with 50,000 titles, all with short reviews. And all I wanted, and it unfortunately doesn't exist anymore because print, that kind of stuff doesn't exist in print anymore, was to also be in there with just one movie. So I am one of the, I'm part of the history of cinema. So my love for cinema is, and influences, it's everything really. If I were to give myself some advice, my younger self, it took me a lot of years to grow the confidence to make movies, because there is an arrogance in that. Because when you make a movie, a feature film, and you get a lot of people to participate in my story, telling my story, it sort of automatically assumes that I think my story is important enough to be heard. And it took quite a few years for me to be egocentrical, egotistical, or strong enough, or confident enough, whatever you want to call it, to come out and say, my voice is a voice that can be heard. My biggest accomplishment in the film industry. I think to show that you can make a movie for nothing out of pure love, where people are willing, because it's made with true, honest love for film. Everybody that worked on those films, but specifically the horror movie, because that's the one that was finished and is out there now. So you can make a movie that works, is considered fairly good, for hardly anything, where everybody had a good time and was, had no problem working for free. And it can result in a movie that will have a life. Because normally movies made for no budget tend to go nowhere. I once said in an interview that I look forward to the death of 3D movies, and the reason why is that the reason why I fell in love with cinema, the reason why I love Back to the Future to such a degree, is stories. It's about stories, and cinema is just a great tool to have a story told to you. If you have a parent who used to be, when you were a kid, really good at like reading, or a teacher, like I remember I used to have a history teacher who was really good at telling a story, but cinema, specifically on the big screen, that's just the best way for me to be able to live a story, to live in another person's skin, to live in another kind of time that either actually existed or is pure fantasy. It doesn't matter. And the thing that I really dislike about those types of techniques, like 3D being one of those techniques, is it takes away from the story, because it's a gimmick you put in front of the story. Because I remember seeing Avatar, which was the first modern 3D movie, and I remember seeing it, and there were points where I was like, oh, look at the desk, and, oh, look at the leaves, and it's like, and I noticed, like, but I shouldn't be noticing those things, because the thing that I should be noticing is the dramatic emphasis a frame should have in the context of a story, not like, oh, look at this, like, oh, look at this, like, there. It takes away from the story, and storytelling is in decline, because we're going way more towards, it's all about spectacle now, and as long as it's spectacle and it's loud and it moves fast. No, for story, you also need to go slow at times. Dare to go slow, because then if you then go fast, the fastness works even better. But now it's sort of, it's slowly disappearing, and 3D is just an aspect of the decline of storytelling in movies. And that's why I really hope that that kind of spectacle will stop. People will grow tired of it and will want to go back to proper stories. Something to share. Find your own way. I think it's the hardest thing in life, because it's the easiest thing to do is to follow others, follow convention, follow the rules. But I think it's always a good thing to question rules, question others, find your own way and do it your own way. You're all unique individuals, so become a more unique individual and do it your own way. I think that's what I would consider, the best advice.